We're joined now by our good friend, Bryce Koon of 247 Sports, the crowded booth. Good day, good sir. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Ready to continue to kind of, I guess, move into the next phase of our coverage and everything, right? Like we got recruiting coming up, and
Yes.
obviously we've had some spring football, which has been great, but we're just getting closer and closer to, I guess, it's talking season for guys like you and me all the time. But for the big names, it's getting close to talking season, media days, then we roll kind of right into that season opener against Clemson.
Um, Definitely talking season if you're Nico Iamaleava.
Buddy, what is going on?
Okay, listen, I don't think, and you work for a massive entity and you've been in this business a long time. I don't think that stories like that get out there without approval. I don't think that you have, I think that there are, this is what I heard last night. Or let me back up. This is what I heard last week. What I heard last week is that On Three has documents about it. So I mean, like this is like Bryce. There are players negotiating during spring, especially when other players come from the portal and they're getting more money than them. I mean, this is not. This is commonplace. I think this is just coming out to the general fan.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I saw you tweeted this. I think it was, I can't remember when you tweeted it, but you're talking about if you don't think this is happening, then you're kind of living under a rock. Like the
Yes.
synopsis of what your tweet says. I mean, this is definitely happening as market values change, as certain quarterbacks who enter the portal get more, and said quarterback who's been at his institution for a while feels like, hey, I'm better than that guy. Maybe I should be getting paid what the market is. And it's the same concept as NFL holdouts, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just different because it's the
Yes.
college level we haven't seen it. So I think no, I mean, look, my the company that I work for is kind of at the I don't want to say at the battleground with another company in this kind of the back and forth of it. I think the best way to put it is to your point. Regardless of what you think about these entities, you're not going to put a story out like that. I mean, there's some people that would do this, and you and I know people who would do that. But there's stories that'll be put out like this. You're going to vet, like you're going to have your sources that talk to you about this. Now, I will say this on the other hand: the people that we'll just rip the band-aid off. I don't care. When 24/7 posted their story about this, their sources there's we all have sources, right? But they have different vantage points and different viewpoints of what's going on. So I think that
Right.
in totality,
Right.
this is happening. Maybe there's a different viewpoint of what's really kind of the in the nitty gritty details of it. And I haven't read. Man, the documents that On Three supposedly has, like that would be God. That would be some interesting stuff to kind of go in and read. Like if you're really into the legality, contracts work, and stuff like that.
Without a doubt. And listen, you keep poking the bear. I look. You know me well enough. I'm putting it out there. What I obtained it. I mean, why would I let you slander me and tell me that I'm wrong when I know that I'm right? Like that. That would
Yeah.
be the big thing. But to kind of put this back into LSU's perspective, it happened at LSU this offseason. I mean, you brought in a lot of kids from the portal. You spent a lot of money. Did you think that current players on your roster didn't get paid off of that? Like you would be dumb diddy dumb dumb if you think that like that didn't happen. So it will be interesting. And listen, Bryce, I said this last week. If you, Nico changed the game the first time, which when the booster went and got him in a private jet, he
Yeah.
changed the game then because then it was open season. He look. I'll just come out and say it. I talked to a couple of players last night who were like, "Bro, I never really thought about it like this. I mean, can I do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. If you think that you got value, I guess. Like, I don't know." And he's changing the way again how people think about what they can and can't do. And he was in a legal battle. Bryce, it literally happened a year ago, the court case that
Yeah.
got filed, right? And so that's the thing. I'm like, man, he's back in there again, regardless. So we'll see. But let's talk about some LSU stuff here. Bryce, I'm just going to leave this one open ended. We've been out there at practice. I just, your thoughts over ended. Like, what has been the biggest standout for you, I guess, this spring for LSU?
Yeah. I think the defense for me has just been something where you can kind of go back and Blake, and I would say, like, I guess the positive is that it really can't be worse, right? Like, you cannot be worse, you would think, some of the statistics now. look, get ready to clip this in the fall when Cade Klubnik runs for 125 yards against
Oh God.
LSU because they can't contain him. But all I'm saying is the past 2 years of what you've seen, you don't feel like it could be, very good. And I remember like conversations you and I had during fall camp last year where we were like, there were reports coming out about, oh, like this looks really good or and we're kind of, I don't see that. Like I don't see
Yes.
what they're talking about. Is it better than maybe it was, 2 years ago? Yeah, that was probably because you had VT and the league neighbors, just torching DBs the whole fall
Right.
camp. But
Yes.
this spring, I think for me, it's been an interesting viewing periods we've had, just in terms of what we've been able to see. Not as many open practices, I think, as we've typically had. But defensively as a whole, I would say this. I think there's still some holes. Like I think that you and I've talked about this off camera. I think that you still need or would want to go get in whether it's out there or not a dominant interior defensive lineman, just a guy
I
that
agree.
just wreaks havoc, can create havoc, creates pressure, commands a double team, like stuff like that. But I'll be real with you, and I don't know how you feel about this, man. Sadir Mitchell came into LSU, and I
Bingo.
think for a lot of people, it was like, okay, I'm not trying to diss the kid. This is a kid who struggles with his weight. Like that's something that's pretty well known. Like he has struggled maintaining his weight, being able to be the best player he could be. But the potential was there, right? He comes in with Bo Davis. Bo Davis leaves. I think it's pretty well known that we were like, okay, how would he react to that? What would
Yeah.
be his reaction to Sadir Mitchell, or what would Sadir's reaction be? I think he's been pretty decent. Like, I don't think he's looked overmatched. I think he has done a good job, in drills that are designed, Blake, and you played along the line where you have the two offensive linemen and the one defensive lineman. It's designed to help the offensive lineman understand how he's going to combo block up to a linebacker, what the scheme is. And Sadir Mitchell has said, no, you're not doing that. I'm going to put my foot in the ground and we're not moving anywhere. If LSU
Exactly.
can just get a guy that just holds ground, that would be an upgrade. Like just holds ground. They'd have not had that
Yes.
in a long time. Um, so I like that. And I think he's been just kind of like, okay, and then obviously he gets hurt, but he comes back. That's massive. So
Wait,
I
so he
think
didn't
that's
get
kind of a
carted off
positive
and
development.
he didn't get carted off and in an air cast like it was reported.
I mean, what we say earlier in the show, some people have sources and other people have make believe people in the sky, I guess, that they're talking
Yes.
to. So,
Yes.
but in all seriousness, that's massive for him to come back and to be able to do that. And so I
Yes.
think defensively, it's there for me. And then I was having a conversation on our message board over at Go 24/7 with some people about this staying defensively. I just think that the floor of this defensive back room is raised significantly. I don't
I
know what the
agree.
ceiling is going to be. I can't tell you. Is it going to be a top 5 unit in the SEC? I don't know. I just think they've gone from playing where you don't know what you're going to get to where you probably have a decent idea of the consistency level of what you're going to get out of these guys. Whether, it's DJ Pickett starting on the outside, whether it is going to be, the lane, it's wherever they're going to put him. Jakeem Jackson, like what does he bring to the table now? He's fully healthy. And a guy we haven't talked a lot about, and I don't know how much you've talked about him on your show, but the guy who was the incumbent starter, Ashton Stamps. Like he's not really a massive talking point this spring. And so you just
Right.
have guys that played snaps, and then you've got some young guys to where the young guys don't have to be thrust into action. And they've had to do that so much over the past couple of years. So
Yeah.
I think just kind of that point, Sadir Mitchell has shown that he could provide some stability if he stays healthy and continues to work. And then defensive back, I just think the floor has been raised a little bit.
It's so funny you say that because we talked about this past Thursday. We're even republishing the clip, even though it'd be double dipping, I guess. But because I've always done this, my biggest winners coming out of spring.
Mm-hmm.
The top two things that I had, you just mentioned, and I think that like Sadir Mitchell was not like I didn't rank it in any order, but Bryce, he hasn't gotten moved, and now I mean you could say maybe, well, how's the interior offensive line? That's a whole different conversation for another day. Here's what I know. He's not being moved.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like to the point of that, when I go back and watch A&M film, when I go back and watch Florida film, when I go back and watch, like Caleb Banks killed us, which I think he's the best interior defensive tackle in the country right now. And I know that that's a hot take, but I watched the last 5 games of his season and he killed LSU. He killed Ole Miss. He killed Florida State. Like it looked a lot of the same. against the same two guys that were in the interior offensive line. So that's why I'm really interested about him. Now, I don't think he's a three down lineman, but man, we need somebody that can attack on first down or third and short. Bryce,
Yeah.
can you imagine there being a pile? Like I thought Jaquelin Roy in 22 against Bama, like when Bryce Young's trying to get a first down and he can't. Like LSU hadn't had that since 22. And you've given up 250 rushing yards per SEC loss. Like you gotta be able to plug these holes. In reference to DB, I mean, right now, if DJ Pickett's your number 3 or number 4, and Michael Turner's your number 4 or number 5, look, all 155 pounds of Michael Turner has said hello. Like that, like, look, Barry and Brown last year against arguably the fourth corner in this draft had a go route where he caught a game winner for Kentucky to upset Ole Miss. They win that game there in the playoff. Let's call a spade a spade. Barry and Brown beats Trey Amos. Well, all I've seen is Michael Turner on those same fade routes by a better quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier than Brock Vandegrift throw that fade route, and he picks it off. I agree. The floor for me feels like it's been raised massively, and I don't know what you do with Ashton Stamps because all I've seen is Jakeem Jackson. I've seen the 4 of them rotating in there. I don't know who starts, but here's the problem with that, or the good thing about that. Good. Because I look, you can rotate somebody in there if there's a problem and there's an issue. So we'll see. We talked about defensively. I guess offensively, is there anything that stood out to you this spring?
You kind of mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Sadir Mitchell, and I think it's just along that offensive line, especially in the interior. This whole Braylon Moore DJ Chester battle, right? Like a lot of us had the expectations, and let's just be real. DJ Chester struggled, right? Like it wasn't the cleanest thing for him last year. And I think a lot of people in this microwave society that we're now in, especially when we view college football through a lens like that, you're like, okay, next guy. Like that's it. He wasn't
Yeah.
good enough. This is LSU. We need guys that are good enough to step in right away. Everyone thought that was going to be Braylon Moore. Well, credit DJ Chester. Like he's I'll shout out somebody. Buddy Sanji, right? What a character on the LSU media beat. Buddy Sanji asked Brian Kelly the question probably like week 2 of practice. He was like, so, DJ Chester, like, he's pretty much saying, yeah, I know you brought these guys in, but I'm here to play. And I thought it was a pretty good question. And Kelly answered it. But it's true. Like, I think Chester has done the work necessary to be in this competition. And you kind of sit here towards the end of, as you get ready to go into the summer and you're like, I don't really know. Like, I mean, he really has done enough work to you're like, okay, that's a real battle still. Like, I don't know if you're
Right.
leaving the spring saying, I know who my starting center is. So
Yes.
for some people, that's going to be a problem. For some people, they're like, well, I want to have all 5 offensive linemen, ready to go. And I think you and I talked about this earlier in the
They're not
spring.
even
Like
close.
they're not close. They're not close. So whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to you. But I think just that interior offensive line has been interesting. And where you put Josh Thompson, because
Yes.
Thompson is versatile, right? Like he can play tackle and guard. But I don't know, Blake. I mean, I was talking with an NFL scout about this, and they likened it to Emory Jones. Like Emory Jones' name is not going to be called early because he had to play tackle at LSU, where a
Right.
lot of people feel like his NFL fit is guard. And I'm not comparing the two players, but I'm just saying the situation is: can you find 2 tackles? Is it Weston Davis, Tyree Adams? Can you find 2 tackles to where you could slot him into guard? Talk about Josh Thompson, to where that's his best position, or out of need, are you going to have to play him outside of tackle?
Right.
And I don't think they know really where they want to go with that, but I do think it's a situation where you have bodies, and you know they have guys that can play. I just don't think they know the combination they want yet. So that's kind of one offensive takeaway. And then I think the second thing I'd go with is the one thing I wanted to see coming into the spring was Caleb Jackson. What does that look like? I mean, is this guy going to play a role? Because I listed him, and I know you made the joke you didn't rank. I did rank. Like, most likely to transfer after spring ball. Caleb Jackson was up there for him because if there was not a plan in place for him this spring, someone needed to be in his ear telling him, "There's what are you trying to accomplish here?" Because they don't have a plan for you. Well, they do, and at least it looks like it. And I think there's a place for him in this offense. And whether he's lost some weight, he's leaned down, and we've seen a little bit more explosiveness. He's just such a when you're building your EA 25 team, he's such a complementary back to what you want, what they have
Exactly.
in that backfield, that I really think they want to take out all stops of trying to get this kid to be a factor. Because if he is, Blake, I think it's one of the bigger storylines that maybe people are not talking about. Yeah, we want to talk about the run game. We want to talk about Caden Durham. But if Caleb Jackson comes back as a guy that they can count on and has, can just do a lot of things, whether it's the inside zone, outside zone run, that helps Caden Durham. It helps Harlem Berry. It helps Garrett Nussmeier. It helps this receiving core. It just alleviates so much pressure. And it's just one player who can help with that. So those are
Right.
kind of the two things I think have kind of stood out in terms of storylines in the spring.
No, I'm with you. Going to DJ quickly and then getting to the second thing. I I say I reported, but I'm that's not my world. I don't like being in that world unless I absolutely have to do it. Like if Caden Durham's transferring and he tells me point blank he's not, then we'll do it. But Braylon Moore has been in an air cast, a playable air cast on his right ankle. It's kind of, I've kind of been asking questions about it. And I don't know if they've been trying to throw transfers out there offensively. They have defensively because they just don't give a shit, I feel like. But offensively, like Barry Brown is not taking reps with the ones in most situations. And Xavier Thomas, let's just be real. Xavier Thomas will not be in your 3 rotation. But the problem is that I think regardless of what happens at center, what it feels like to me, at worst, they're going to put DJ Chester at guard and they're going to give him a shot there, right? Like because they went into a team period, they put him at left guard, they put him at right guard. They're not even close to getting these reps with him. So regardless, if he wins the job, great. But at the same time, that would mean that Paul Mabenga or somebody else at guard stood up. Let me ask you this quick question before I get back to the Caleb Jackson thing. Am I the only one that doesn't like the fact that Carius Kern and Josh Thompson are at tackle for tackle depth? Like, why are we putting guards again at tackle, right? Like that. You're in recruiting and you know more about it than I do. When I look at Carius Kern, I'm like, brother, that's a guy that should be really pushing for starting reps at guard, and we're putting him at left tackle. Am I wrong to say that the tackle depth might be a tad bit of an issue?
Yeah, I think in terms of, and I say this lightly, in terms of the quality of depth, like what you maybe thought you
Fair.
had there in terms of the recruiting when you went out and got some of these guys, uh, they haven't developed to this point. And I'm really pointing to a lot of the guys that were freshmen last year. Like these guys that you were like, okay, once Campbell and Jones are gone, it's going to be a feeding frenzy to be on that 2 deep. And I think
Right.
some of those guys just have not, whatever it is, development, understanding of the scheme,
Right.
for a lot of these kids, being able just to lean on guys in high school, and now you can't do that here in the SEC. I don't know
Right.
what it is specifically, but I would agree because, dude, Carius Kern's an NFL guard. Like there's no, that's what
Without
he
a
is. He
doubt.
is I don't know much about his pass sets. I'm gonna tell you one thing: that kid's gonna maul some people in terms of the inside run game. Like
Without a doubt.
I I don't know what he looks like, and if he doesn't start, I want him in the goal line so LSU can figure out these goal line issues. Just put him in there as an extra lineman, and let's just run the ball at the middle type of deal.
Right.
But yeah, to
Yes.
your point, yeah, I think Josh Thompson should be playing guard to kind of go off what I was saying earlier. Like he needs to be a guard, Kern needs to be a guard. So when you split these guys out to tackle, it does tell me that you're not as confident in some of the development of these younger tackles that you had, and um, you know Tyree Adams has been a guy that I think that is just I think he's reliable in terms like he's going to give you I don't know what his ceiling is in terms of NFL projection. I think they really and a guy they really I don't want to say they need but they do probably is Weston Davis. Like they need him to be a guy
Yeah.
100% because if those
Mhm.
but once you get behind those two, I mean Blake, we're looking at what Ori Williams
Who got
who
moved to guard?
got moved to guard.
Mhm.
I mean, outside of that, what are we really looking at here in terms of the depth? So
Yeah.
I think it is an issue. A lot of people like to laud Brad Davis as the recruiter he is, and I think he does a great job having talked with kids that have sat down in his office and an understanding of what is what. I think he does a great job of that. Maybe just right now, all those guys you brought in, because what was it, Blake? And I don't know if you have this off the top of your head. I believe it was what 6 they brought 6 offensive linemen they brought in the
Yeah, sick.
2025 class
Yeah.
or 4
Mhm.
class. Yeah, back-to-back
Mhm.
classes. So
Yep.
you've brought in 12 guys. Let's just call it that. And of course, if you can hit on about 5, that's what you'd like to see. Like you'd love that out of those
Right.
12. I think that
Hell,
they
even if
are
you hit on 4, like
4. Yeah, yeah.
you're
If you hit
right,
on 4,
right.
well, yeah, I think the depth at tackle is a concern in terms of the quality. Those guys haven't developed, and man, I just wonder. And like I said, I know you played offensive line. Like if you get into a situation where you've got to throw Carius Kern at left tackle on the road at Ole Miss or right tackle, I mean, I think Carius Kern's gonna be a great player, but in terms of psyche and confidence, man, that's not what he needs to be doing. And you're
Right.
patchworking at a place. Here's the club. You're trying to patchwork at a place where that should never be in the cards to patchwork at a place like LSU. You
1000%.
cannot do that. So yeah, I think it's a concern.
In reference to Caleb Jackson, I'm not going to put this on Caleb Jackson specifically, like on him. I'm going to put this more on LSU because it's something that we talked about off air that I want to bring up again. LSU has got to find a way to be extremely physical in the running game. And we look at him and his success of like, hey, man, can you run in between the tackles? Bryce, I think that his success benefits LSU from more of a toughness overall standpoint. Like, for example, if we go into the season, let's just say he's got 400 yards and he's got 4 yards a carry. I don't care because
Mhm.
what I care about is does that mean that he's coming in on third down and running for a first down? Bryce, coming into, let's just say post spring, like we have it right here, okay? Like right here in this handy dandy
Yeah.
notebook. LSU threw the ball 70% of the time on 3rd and 3 short or shorter. 70%. That's skyrocketed above average, right? Like you should be around 50-50 at max. They cannot run the ball physically enough, and I hope that he can find the way because you need him to be able to get those physical yards. I guess my question is I don't know if it's physical. It's more like his vision. I feel like he's just not
Yeah.
hitting the right hole. But let me ask just the ultimate question. Do you need to go in the portal for a running back? I know that they probably won't, but I mean, then what happens if Trey Holly comes back? Like I don't know these dynamics, but I feel like you got to get somebody that you can just like Noah Kane in 2020 and 22. Dude
Mhm.
didn't play. Only thing he did was he came in the red zone. By the way, he had double-digit touchdowns. Like
Yeah.
that works. That's what got you to the SEC championship game. So, do they need a portal running back? That would be my question too.
I think I say this a lot. You can't coach in fear of the portal, and I don't think Brian Kelly can coach with this idea of Trey Holly might be back or might not be back. Like you have to move forward with your team if you're going to win in 2025, not
Yeah,
knowing what that looks like. So to your point, I find a kid that is Noah Kane's a perfect example. A fourth or fifth year guy that is literally just looking for an opportunity to be in a good culture, maybe try. What do we call in the NBA when they go on the minimum deals? Ring chasing. That's what you need to find. A guy who is ring chasing,
100%.
has maybe been in a power four locker room that understands what it takes to win. And also understands that he might only get like 30 touches this year. Like maybe. Like he's not getting more than 25, 30 touches, and they're most likely, like you said, going to come within that 5 yard line or more. So yeah, I would love to see it. I mean, that was one of the things in the portal that I was kind of interested to see if they could get during that winter cycle. I'll add this too. That's hard to find nowadays. With all the
Very.
opportunities for playing time and the money being thrown around, let's just let's just use these numbers as for whatever they are. If LSU's offering you, let's just say 25,000 to come and be a running back for 1 year, you get to hang out, whatever you want to do, be a mentor for the rest of the room. If you're doing that, but let's just say, okay, you can go to the SEC, or let's just throw another school out there, a Big 12, Arizona State or Arizona comes in and says, hey, we need a number 2 back, and we kind of like what you bring to the table, and we
Yeah.
can double that touches total, and you're going to be, a third down back for us every single time. I just don't know what that pitch looks like for Frank Wilson and company. I think it's a lot harder than what people may anticipate. So I'd like to go see them get a guy because I think here's a concern for me, Blake: the blocking. the blocking out of the running back position. What does that look like?
Yes.
Because everyone wants to talk about how great Josh Williams was, and he had some highlight reel blocks. But now you're going to a situation where how much has Caden Durham really blocked in his life? Like,
None.
truthfully, none. Okay,
None.
so he didn't really do that Duncanville. They didn't put a lot on him in terms of that. Caleb Jackson struggles with vision. Does he understand when he's standing next to Nussmeier in the shotgun of where the alignment is and what way the offensive line's moving? Does he really get that? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. And then it's be crazy to expect the younger guys to be able to block at the SEC level in year one. So, man, it's a niche position to find. If you find it, if they find a guy who's like, yeah, I want to do it, I'm going to get him. I don't care what the guys in the running back room say. I would point to the burden of proof of, hey, we've had running back rooms with 4 or 5, 6 guys deep, and it works. And that's just what has to
Right.
work here at LSU.
All right. Last thing before I get you out of here. I have been labeled, unfortunately, as the hater of quarterbacks, unless your name is Jaden Daniels. Bryce, here's where I currently am at. Where I'm currently at, and I'm going to try to see this as calmly as possible before people in the chat and the comments will start yelling at me. I've been here for 2 guys that took a massive leap. You were here for one of them. You go 1-8 in the red zone. You punt twice on team drills. You miss 3 field goals in 2-minute warnings. And I'm asking myself, is this a situation like where can I point to at a practice other than Tradez Green and 7-on-7 or 1-on-1s where he's made freakish plays, which hello, Tradez Green, that's a whole different conversation for another day. But where, like, everybody's saying that I am being negative, and I want just, if you think that I am, like, or just I'm wrong here, please tell me. I don't know where I can point in 11-on-11 where they've had success. And that's the part that I'm trying to point out here. And you brought up earlier, like, well, hey man, that really has been the defense that's really, showed out to me when I just asked the open-ended question. I mean, am I wrong in saying that, like, I don't know if I don't want to say haven't seen development, but I don't know if I can, at the current moment, if I can put my thumb on, hey, this is what they've done well. This is where they've had success outside of Tradez Green, if I'm just being honest. Am I wrong there? And I guess my question would be to that too. What have you seen, if anything, from just the overall run of the offense, quarterbacks, wide receivers, Nussmeier, whatever you want to take it? What have you just seen there?
Blake, you watched obviously up close that 2019 team and how it was just a well-oiled machine, right? Like it was
Yeah,
just there was not a lot of hiccups. When they got moving on the drive, like it was for guys that love offense, it was poetry in motion. I mean,
without a doubt.
it was basketball on grass. Like it was one of those things you loved. And we've all, whether you're an LSU fan or whatever fan you are, you all have that offense for your favorite team, and you go back and say, man, that was fun.
Right.
I think the best way to describe what I have seen out of this offense is whether it's play calling, whether it's scheme, whatever it is, it just doesn't feel smooth. It doesn't feel without hiccups. And to be fair, it's spring. There's a lot of new
Without
faces.
a
They're
doubt.
trying to find all this kind of stuff, and so it's not us sitting here in April saying, "Hey, they're not going to be good." We don't know.
They can come out in August and explode.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, they can't.
Yep. Yep.
I just nothing to me has been like, whoa, like
Exactly.
that's next level. And I don't know, maybe that's maybe covering LSU and being around the LSU space, we're spoiled because we've seen jumps like leaps you just talked about. We've seen
Yeah.
that. I do think the defense is better, which is going to help that out. But there, with Nussmeier specifically, I know you've been labeled a hater of quarterbacks. I've seen a little bit of that. I think you're going to enter a conversation, and here's the rebuttal, okay? Because I obviously talk LSU, but on our show we talk widespread college football, a lot of SEC, ACC, and there's been
Yep.
obviously a lot of quarterback rankings that have come out. I've gotten joked with, hey, that LSU paycheck must be hitting if you have Nussmeier at a certain spot, stuff like that.
I
But I
do.
will say, like, if there's the pushback is going to be its empty stats because you didn't deliver in the red zone. And so, yeah,
Yep.
4,000 yards is awesome. But if you're not delivering in the red zone, what does it matter? If we get all the way down to
Yep.
15, I don't care. That's going to be the pushback. I'm not saying that's my take, but that's the pushback from non LSU fans or people who don't think Nussmeier is as good as advertised. You can't debate the stats, but I think what you also can say here is there needs to be a jump in the development. There needs to be some serious chemistry where, you go back Jaden with Malik and BT, Burrow with Chase and Jefferson, where it's just like they know where they want to go with the ball. They don't have to do a lot of thinking. It just becomes muscle memory.
Yep.
And I just don't think that's there yet. And I don't know why. I mean, I think that I would say Chris Hilton has, for me, been the closest to that.
I
And
agree.
you mentioned Trey Green, but Chris Hilton has been the close to it. Maybe it's because he and Nuss have been together for 35 years at this point, it feels like. I mean, they've been playing together for so long, but you got a lot of new faces. So I just think it's a little discombobulated. Like when you watch those 11 on 11 drills, it's not that they don't know what they're doing. It's just more of like, it's just not crisp. Oh, dang, there's a mistake here. Maybe there's a option route for someone and they run the wrong option and Nuss, and I'm not trying to get on anybody, but he throws the ball down. He's a little irritated. It's just stuff that's like nitpicky stuff to where
Yep.
it keeps them from being this well-oiled machine that I think everyone is counting on them being, because I think this offense has to be that to reach the playoff.
Yeah.
So it's just been kind of discombobulated. I mean, I don't hate what they're doing. I will be interested because if we're seeing the same things, let's just say the second week of August, then I'm like, okay, this is more than just getting new faces, getting some acclamation too, and also too, like I think you have to put a lot of it on Joe Sloan. Like, what are these meetings that we're having in terms of everyone in the team meeting room? What is he teaching that's not getting through, or what is maybe the coaching style that's not getting through to these guys? So, yeah, I think it's that, and then kind of to address your hatred of quarterbacks.
Which is not
I
true.
Not true. No, it's hilarious. Nussmeier's a good quarterback. Okay, he's really good.
Without a doubt.
I mean, I would think that for me, he's the top quarterback in the SEC because of his production, the lack
Yep.
thereof. For
Mm-hmm.
me, like I mean, I said this on a show this week. When Florida comes to town, I don't know how you feel about this, but when Florida comes to town, I have said, in terms of God-given talent, not on the back of the football card, not what he's done for you, in terms of God-given talent, Florida might walk into that game with the better quarterback. In terms of God-given
Oh.
athletic ability, what he bestows upon us when we enter this world, the thing.
I,
Um,
I don't know if a week after when South Carolina comes to town, if we're talking about God-given talent, that
yeah, and that's strictly off of not what he's done. Okay, but to
exactly
that point, Nussmeier's production, you can't ignore it. They just need to. It's just not well oiled, and that's when you need this. So
right.
to that point, I probably got you. Maybe I joined the club, the quarterback haters there with
Well,
that comment. But
to your point, you brought up Chris Hilton. I brought this up last Thursday. There have been multitudes of times over and over again where he's beaten a DB on a fade route and the pass is not getting completed. Now,
yeah,
that's not just a Nuss thing either. That's also happened with Michael Van Buren. So this
hmm
isn't just a Garrett thing. This has also been a Van Buren thing. And I will lump them in together of if Chris Hilton's got 2 steps on Jakeem Jackson, that's got to be completed. It's
yeah,
got to
yeah,
be at least 50%. I can think of 2 times, 3 times where they get in the back of the end zone, and they score. But then in 11 on 11, the last 11 on 11 we saw, minus the spring game, but
hmm
11 on 11, because I don't think that the spring, the performances are not going to sway my everything else that I saw. One half of football is not going to sway
yeah,
everything that I
yeah,
saw in a vanilla defense. It's got to be more crisp. Like, and so it's difficult to put Garrett in with Nuss. I mean, Garrett in with Jaden, but it's just like when we came out of spring, he gained 10, 15 pounds, and we're like, look, dude, okay, like I don't know if this defense just sucks or this dude might be a Heisman Trophy contender. Now, Bet Online at the time, like, and just I came out here and said, listen, I put $100 with plus 4,000 on Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman. I'm convinced. I'm utterly convinced. I haven't had that moment for any single thing offensively yet. Now, again, in August, we can come out here and say, bro, what are we talking about? We should have known this was spring football. They exploded. I'm an idiot. I mean, but at the same time, it doesn't stop the fact that there's nothing that I can put my finger on when I have 9 drives this spring where they didn't complete it in practice. That would
yeah,
be when they're, by the way, when they're not vanilla in a half in a spring game, when they're sending blitzes. So that would be my thing. I'm sorry to lump you in with the quarterback hate. It's not quarterback hate. It's just like, Bryce, we turned the ball over 17 times at that position last year. 17.
Mhm.
And we're talking about clunkiness. The last thing I would say to this, and I was going to you and Matthew Brune and asking this question. Look, I may be wrong, and it is okay to be wrong. Why are we running? Speaking of Sloan, why are we running the ball? Okay, I'm asking the question. I'm seriously. Why are we running the ball to number one, the short side of the formation? Meaning you have an H back on the left and or tight end on the left, and you have a running back on the left, and you're running into numbers that you don't have. That
Mhm.
with a quarterback with, by the way, that will not pull the football. He will
Yeah.
not. He's not going to pull it. I think Garrett's issue is not all his. I think I don't know if he's been put in the right situations, and that's a whole nother thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to this. I just think that, and maybe it's a talking. I mean, I'm sure you talk about it, but I don't think a lot of LSU media are talking about it as much as they need to. And maybe it's because, and I'll say this because there's a buddy buddy system, but with all this stuff, at what point do we question some of Joe Sloan's decision making? Like, really question it. Like, we really say, hey, why does this happen? And you're doing this here, but to the point for people who don't understand, when you run to the near side of the field like that, the biggest thing that defenders struggle with is probably what? Tackling in space, right? The more space you give a defender to
Exactly.
have to defend, it's way harder. When you cut that down dramatically and you run to the near side of the field, I'm telling you, talking to guys who play defense, the eyes get big. They light up because they're like, hey, I don't have as much ground to cover. Now I don't have to worry about if he can make a move on me because I have got the sideline to help. The boundary's helping me here.
Right.
So all that to say is, yeah, I think that there's some question marks because I think this year you're going to learn. I mean, I'll say this: Joe Sloan's coaching for his job this year. If you
I
don't,
agree.
if you don't if Garrett Nussmeier doesn't, if he's not a round one pick for some reason, I think that's kind of on you. Because like this kid has the talent to do that, and obviously the
I
quarterback
agree
class,
with
I
you.
haven't looked a lot at it in 26, but like he's got the talent to do it. I would say the biggest thing for him, and this is probably coach speak, that Kelly and Sloan said, and even Denbrock to an extent, that really helped Jaden was the decisiveness. That's something Nussmeier has to be better at, like
Yeah.
knowing what he's going to do pre-snap and saying, "This is what I'm doing." Also being okay to check off of that if something changes or they're disguising or hiding a different coverage. But he's got to be better decisiveness. But Joe Sloan's play calling it's another storyline that maybe people aren't talking about as much because it's just like, hey, I don't, I don't know what for whatever reasons. I won't get into whatever reasons, but I think
Right.
that's something that's interesting.
Last thing I'm getting you out here. He's got to be better on his checkdowns. You lost against
Yeah.
Florida because you didn't hit your checkdowns, and that was a big thing. They disguise things on you, and that's a big thing. All right, I've kept you here long enough. Thank you and graciously for coming and joining us, Bryce Koon, 247 Sports, a crowded booth. I know everybody knows where they can catch your stuff. Just in case they don't, tell everybody where they can catch it.
Yeah, man. Obviously, with Blake having me on here, cover LSU for 24/7 Sports, it's a great time to hop on and talk with us about different stuff because recruiting season, I mean, you've seen it, Blake, official visit season getting ready to take place. I really believe LSU's got a strong shot at the number one class. I know a lot of people have kind of fallen on deaf ears in terms of recruiting because of what happened last
Mm-hmm.
December. I get that, but they really do have a good chance to land the number one class. So a lot of great content in that. And in terms of the crowded booth, we talk college football all the time. It's a lot of fun. And right now we're in the middle of editing. I got my guy editing and he's shooting me texts as we're recording this. Last weekend, we were invited out to do a full facility tour at SMU,
I
brand
saw
new,
that.
$100
It's
million
telling.
facility, bro. So we got that. That'll be out later this week. In terms of that, great conversation talking with Rhett Lashley about the kind of their development over the past couple of years. So, man, that place is, you want to talk about some money, buddy. They got some money over there in
DFW got
Dallas.
money. I mean,
DFW Highland Park's got some money, so it was
yes,
awesome, great time, and I think that obviously we'll go to the ACC title game in their first year too, which was really cool. So yeah, we got that coming over the channel, so come hang out with us, and man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm ready. I'm already ready. Like
me too.
I'm ready. Baseball season's great, but I'm ready for football. Like let's get to SEC media days. Let's get rolling into Clemson.
All I'll say is that SMU goes to the ACC. The ACC says we're not giving you TV revenue money, and they laugh at them. I
And they
mean,
said
like
that's okay.
that's okay, brother. We got all money, big dog. So I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
listen, fine. That's fine with me. All right, Bryce Koon, thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you soon.